And welcome back to Around the Waves on KCOU 88.1 FM Columbia. All right, let's get going now to more NHL news on our newly team, the Seattle Kraken. Man, I was excited for that expansion draft. I don't know about you guys, but I was excited. This team is going to be interesting, but let's get to that right now. We saw the Vegas Knights were introduced in 2017. That season, their inaugural season, they finished first in the division, Pacific Division specifically, with a record of 51-24-7, which is good for 109 points in their very first season campaign. They ended up advancing all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals that season, where they lost 4-1 to the Washington Capitals. So, Ben, I'll start with you here. Do you think the Kraken will actually make the playoffs this season?
I hate to be Debbie Downer, but I honestly don't. The reason is if you just look at previous expansion draft teams in their first year, you mentioned it with Vegas' record. They were the first expansion team ever to go over 500 in their first year. Obviously, every roster is different, and we have no idea what's going to happen with the roster that Seattle put together. They have fantastic jerseys, so that counts for something. But if you just look at the history, the odds aren't in their favor. After you take in Vegas, the next closest team in terms of best record, you got to go back to the 93-94 season. That's the Panthers, who were 33-34-17. And then next close record after that is all the way back in 1967. So it hasn't been pretty in terms of records in the first year. I compared the drafts between Vegas and Seattle. In their expansion draft, Kraken took 12 defensive men, Vegas took 13. Kraken took 15 forwards, Vegas took 14. And he took 3 goaltenders. So very similar roster in terms of the draft, but it's just so hard to replicate the talent that Vegas got. It was insane what they did in their first year, but the odds on that happening again, if you just look at the history, are not good for Seattle.
I disagree. And the reason I say that is because I look at the division and I see, obviously, Vegas. I feel like Vegas is going to finish number one again. I feel like they will. I don't see any other team that's better than them in that division in terms of offense, defense, and goaltending. But that's a story for a different day. Goaltending, actually, that's not them. Never mind. I totally forgot. Fleury's not on that team anymore. And then I look at the other couple of teams. Calgary. Calgary's going to have a rebound season. They were awful last season. They're going to have a rebound season. You got Jacob Markstrom. You still got David Riddick. That's a good goalie tandem. They still got a good defense. You still got Mr. Ice Hockey and Johnny Gaudreau. You still got Sean Monahan. I feel like they're going to be just fine. And then, obviously, the Edmonton Oilers. They'll either finish second or third. Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen. That is nothing to brag about in terms of a goalie tandem. That is why they will never win a playoff series with that goalie tandem. Mike Smith, love Mike Smith to death. He is not what he used to be. He is also not meant to be a starting goaltender. If Edmonton actually wants to advance, they're going to have to get something. Because listen to this. This offense, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and now Zach Hyman. Those are four, some of the best offensive players in the entire league. And they are still losing in the first round. So there is no excuse as to why to keep losing in the first round. But that's a story for another day. And then finally we get to Seattle. They're going to get the 4th seed in that division. And the reason I say that, I feel like they're going to be fighting with Vancouver for that spot. The reason I say that is simply because their defense and their goaltending. Their defense is monstrous. And when I look at that defense, we need to look at it very closely. And we got to see something that most people do not see. And I see lots of names on this team that are definitely going to be efficient, say. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. When I look at their offense, it's pretty scary, too. You got Jonas Donskoy, Yanni Gord, Callie Yarncroke, Mason Appleton. All of these guys have offensive prowess. They got great stick handling. They got quality speed. And they're great at taking the opponent netminder's vision away. But then, the expansion draft, they obviously drafted Vitek Vanacek and Tris Drieger. Now they have Philip Grubauer. That brings a whole new story now to this team. Philip Grubauer, as Ryan would know, is one of the best goaltenders in the entire National Hockey League. Top 10, for sure. He is something that is going to bring this team to a new level. Colorado should have never let him walk the way they did. They're going to be sorry once Seattle makes the playoffs, and he's going to star. But I just want to say this before I give it to Ryan, just to make him a little upset. One of these great defensive players that Seattle has is Vince Dunn. The Blues might be one of the dumbest teams in terms of protecting players. He is 24 years of age, and he won the Stanley Cup in 2019 with the Blues with 20-plus points in each of his NHL seasons thus far. It is going to be scary what he does, what Adam Larson does, what Jamie Alexiak does, what Carson Soucy does, what Mark Giordano does, what Dennis Cholowski does on this team. It is going to be scary, but Vince Dunn, mark my words, is going to be on a line with Adam Larson, and they're going to be one of the best shutdown defensive pairs in the entire league. Go on, Ryan.
Real quick, Ryan, I know you're bugging to talk, but even though I said I don't love Seattle's chances, you brought this up, Luca. I am super stoked to watch Philip Grubauer because you don't just mess around and become a Vezina Trophy finalist. His save percentage last year was .922, so you don't just mess around and put up those numbers. So even though I'm not high on their hopes overall for the season, him in the goal is going to be fun to watch. I totally agree. He should never have been let go, but now Seattle's got him locked up for 6 years, so now I'll let you go, Ryan.
Here we go, guys. Here we go. Well, first off, Luca, you put the cake on top. You put the cherry on top of the cake with the division. Seattle couldn't have got any better division to be put in. I'm sorry, but Vegas is probably finishing number one. It doesn't matter. Vegas and Edmonton are definitely 1, 2, 3 locks. There's no way that a goalie tandem of Philip Grubauer and Chris Dreider do not make the playoffs. And I know there's something about expansion teams making the playoffs in their first year, but there's just no way this team doesn't make the playoffs. First off, you're in the Pacific Division. The top, I believe it's the top 4 teams make it may be the top. I'm pretty sure it's top 4 teams make the division. It would make to the playoffs. And if you can't be a top 4 in that division, I can't help you. Okay, you want to go back to my man Vince Dunn? Yeah, that sucks. The Blues gave him away, and that was very unfortunate. But you know who else they gave away? Jaden Schwartz, who they picked up. And that man, he's talented too. So you're telling me that you have a front line now of Jaden Schwartz, Alexander Wenenberg, and Jordan Eberle, who Jordan Eberle, I'm not really, the hype's not there yet. He's still a little iffy to me, but he could turn his whole career around here in Seattle, as could some of these other guys. But here's the one thing that will make them a playoff contender, and it's the fact that David Hacksaw and his team went big defensive in the expansion draft. And defensive wins championships. And you have Philip Grubauer back there. I'm telling you right now, there's no way this team gives up 4 goals a game. I just don't see it. They're just too talented. A lot of people, like Ben, don't think that they will make the playoffs, and that's fine. Like, you have your opinion. That's all good. But you have Brandon Tanev. You have Cal Jankarok. You have Jared McCann. Jonas Donskoy. These guys. Mason Appleton. He's going to have one heck of a season. He's fast. He's young. He can get it done. That power play is going to be deadly. Yanni Gourde, he's going to be out for a couple of months, but when he comes back, he's going to be the main center for them. That is huge power there. Obviously, Jonas Donskoy we talked about. Mark Giordano, their captain. That was a huge, huge pickup for them in the expansion draft. Last thing I'm going to say, there's just no way. I'm sorry. There's just no way. I don't see them not making the playoffs. You have one of the best goalie tandems right now in the NHL. And yes, Philip Grubauer, Luca, is a top 10 goaltender.
Oh, thank God. Okay, excellent. You do have some common sense. Excellent. I wanted to make sure that we're on the same page.